watching footy fantasy. It is your steady thing go meet your football needs. Banter from rivalries, he sure you go receive. From EPL to Champions League, your eyes go see. It's footy fantasy. Yeah, watching footy fantasy. Footy fantasy. It is your steady thing go meet your football need. Your football need. Banter from rivalries, he sure you go receive. Sure you go receive. From EPL to Champions League, your eyes go see. Your eyes go see. It's footy fantasy. Footy fantasy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Football Fantasy Show, known officially as the Footy Fantasy Podcast. This week we have our guests, coincidentally, two Arsenal fans, Michael and Hi. They're not new to the show. I'm sure you've seen them before. It's my first time hosting with Michael as a guest. It's not my first time with Hi. Um, None of our teams played this weekend. It's been that's why I call it a slow weekend. It's been kind of one of those slow periods of football. I mean, with terms of league football, because we've had 2 weeks of international break. Then we come back to an FA Cup weekend with regards to the EPL, and then of course other leagues have kicked off. And then there's no Champions League next week. It's not back to league football. So for now, we'll focus on the FA Cup. We'll start with the FA Cup, and then we're gonna roll straight into the podcast. So before we talk about the FA Cup, do you guys, quickly, 30 seconds each, if you have anything to say about the international football that preceded the
Well,
African qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers from other sides, USA losing, whatever you want to talk about quickly.
I only have 3 words, actually. 3 words precisely. Miles Lewis Skelly. That's it.
Oh goodness, Arsenal fans. I forgot.
No, I'm proud of that kid. I'm proud of the progress he's making. Quite rapid. I didn't anticipate it, so the sky is the limit. So I'm just really happy to see him score for England on his debut, becoming the youngest player to score on his debut, and the third youngest scorer behind Owen and Rooney. That's some lofty company to keep. So I hope he continues to progress.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Isn't he the youngest player to have 2 red cards?
He only
in a
has
season?
one. He only has one
Oh,
red
one
card.
got rescinded.
One got rescinded.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll just play with you. Just run through you. Hi, do you have anything to say?
Nigeria is not making it NFA for no future ambition. So that's all I have to say. Every year, it seems like every 4 years comes around, we're all hyped. We say we have like an excellent front line and, maybe good wingers, and we end up botching it and not making it to the World Cup. So that's my own issue. Now we're relying on, potentially key on South Africa being sanctioned. I don't know. I don't think we're making it. So it's what it is.
Been sanctioned by who? Oh, the US.
No, not the US. Apparently, South Africa fielded an ineligible player, but it's left for CAF to determine if that's going to play a role or not. But why do we have to rely on that, right? You just had a few more minutes to round up the match, try and seal the victory. So we have another Ayegbeni type incident with Ndidi, So yeah, I don't know, Niger. It's same old story.
I mean, before the game, I was also going to talk about Nigeria quickly. But before the game, the chances were too slim. You needed to win out and then hope, which included beating South Africa, then hope somebody else drew or beat South Africa. And now you've drawn one game and South Africa is still winning. You can't even, it's more difficult now to catch up with second position to get into a potential qualification.
Yeah.
But, they have a chance with that, but it's harder. I think I've kind of given up on Nigerian football. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And maybe they have good players or we have good players, but I now kind of refer to the Nigerian team as they. And, the players are better than it's like the individual players are better than the sum of the parts of the team. And it's usually supposed to be the other way, where the sum of the parts of the team is greater than the sum of the individual parts. And so it just tells you the misorganization. And someone said after that flip it and look at South Africa, much less talented individual players, but a better team. The same thing can apply to Zimbabwe. And what's the key there is that these two teams focus a lot more on the local players and developing the league and getting these young local players to play more, more local players to play international football. So maybe that's the key instead of bringing all these players from these disparate parts and just
Mm,
and then of course the other part of us also giving us second half-baked coaches, second-rate coaches. If you are going to hire a coach, if that's the level of coaching we're going to be hiring with the level of experience that guy has, might as well just hire a Nigerian coach and let him get an experience managing the team instead of going to keep getting these second-rate foreign coaches. But we all know,
I want to echo what you said about the local league, because looking at the list of players, a lot of them great players play for good clubs. Has any single one of them played in the Nigerian league since the age of like 17 or 18? We're just bringing people from different parts of the world where we're not doing the actual work of developing our own players. There's no Nigerian style of play like there used to be in the past. It's just bringing people from all over and just not actually developing our own system. Does anything none of those players have ever played in Nigeria before, so there's nothing that links them in common. They're just developed by European clubs who were relying on to do the development of players for us. So it's one of those inevitable outcomes. Pretty
yeah,
sad.
it's you said Nigerian. Okay, we'll just take a few more minutes on this since we already got into it. The Nigerian style of play you talk about. I mean, I'm talking from my own perspective. I think we're all about the same age, so we'll probably remember what I'm talking about. That the best times in Nigerian football were the 80s and the 90s. The 80s was when you had a coach like Christian Chukwu who played for the national team when it was Green Eagles, then managed a local team, then managed the national team, and the core of those players were local players who had not at that time Nigerian players were not going professional. Then it now came to the two Dutch coaches, Westerhoff and Bonferré Joe, and Bonferré was Westerhoff's assistant. So it was like a smooth transition. So that was the best period, and Nigeria had that what you call Nigerian style of play because a lot of players were not actually going abroad. It was after that period, the success that the floodgates open and players started going. Like the under 17 teams, they had been flooding out in droves because of the quality of the success of the under 17 teams. And then from that, we started having players like Tijani Babangida, Nwankwo Kanu, Celestin Babayaro, who left at quite young, becoming superstars or becoming mature and then getting into the team. But they had been, kind of nurtured in the Nigerian team already.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's also a problem where we should stop focusing on foreigners. I agree with you. It's
Yeah,
if you're not gonna get these results, then there's no point.
there's no point. Like back then, our best players are maybe playing in Belgium or Portugal. We didn't have players in Champions League back then.
Yeah,
But
we had players playing for we had good players playing in Ivory Coast, Asec Mimosas, we had players in Zamalek, we had some players playing in Morocco. That's how I know those teams because of those guys. That's where they were playing in
yes,
Morocco. We had some players that were playing in South Africa
South Africa,
then,
yes.
and then
Mm-hmm.
somewhere Enugu Rangers, Julius Berger, Shooting Stars. That's where a lot of those players are coming from. Kanu Pillars and co. And then all of a
BCC
sudden,
Lions, all those teams.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
only a
BCC
few. I think Keshi was the first to go to Anderlecht, and I think that was where they had a few.
88 or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, it was. So it looks like in the past 10 years, we have taken two steps forward each time, I mean, one step forward each time to go two steps back and rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And, it's unfortunate. I'm not saying we should do away with all the international players or the foreign based players, but build a core team around the home base, and then you can bring in players that will just fit in. You just like snap and play, that kind of thing, or how
Yes.
do you call it, plug and play. So instead
I'm,
of
I'm, I'm not dismissing we have some really great players. Victor Osimhen, Alex Iwobi, they're very committed. They've always shown up and done well. So it's not really about their quality. It's about the fact that they're being asked to just fill in the gaps. We're not doing the basic core fundamental, which is developing our own core. We're, like I said, relying on foreigners other leagues to do it for us.
yeah.
And if I could chime in a little bit, it's not. I don't even think it's Nigeria alone that is suffering from that, right? I think even the almighty Brazil is suffering from a similar feat, right? You can see, the performances in the past few Copa America. We saw the recent loss to Argentina. I've never seen Argentina in the past few years dominate Brazil this way. I think it's a lot of these players, when you start to lose your identity as a team, and you also don't have that core that plays as a cohesive unit, it becomes a problem. It might not be, every now and then you're going to see individual brilliance that saves you, but you can always rely on that, right? As you get out of jail card. So similar thing, right? You see all these players individually, Vinicius, they go to the Madrid, they're forced to play in a system, so they get used, they adapt to that system, and then when they get to go back to play for their country, that ability to play expressive football as they usually will, usually Brazilian soccer players, for their flair, their ability to be expressive on the field. That just because of the systems they're sort of forced to play in all these other leagues, it doesn't translate in the type of football that they want to play, for their country. So that's why I agree with both of you, which is maybe the solution would be extensively, and it worked at a time, right, where we had a local, not a local, let me, that's not the right way, but we had an efficient home-based team that would actually give a fight to even the foreign-based players, right? That if they were not playing so good, they could step up and maybe not even get to bench them. It's also just the whole political, how everything is also being politicalized, and the financial incentives and everything. So it's also a system issue here. But if they can find a way to go back and develop our leagues and make it more competitive, the team as a whole will grow because you get younger talents. And then, as you said, it will be like plug and play. Those areas where you need a little bit, it's like a company, right? You need an expertise somewhere for, you consult an expertise. If we say, okay, we have a number 9 out there that can do a better job compared to the local number 9 we have, make that number 9, the local one, be an understudy to the expertise, then we all tend to gain, right? It's a win-win for us. So hopefully that's the direction we go long term. That's what I see. But for now, we've missed out again.
You have hope.
It's a shame living in America and not getting to see Nigeria here. I was looking forward to that
Yeah,
aspect.
we've missed
Yeah,
out.
I was looking for it, but the good thing about it is at least now I know I won't have to spend minimum of $800 for a ticket, because they actually have been marketing World Cup tickets to me, because I've gone to a few games here, and so I think they have my email address, and they'll be sending me World Cup tickets. And I went to look out of curiosity, thinking, okay, look, I'm going to go and make a steal right now. If I buy some tickets now, I thought I'd be seeing $100, $200, $300 tickets. The minimum ticket is $800 now,
And
with
it probably
no draws. No, you don't know who's playing in Houston. It's $800. Some tickets are $1,400. When the draws are done and we know who's playing here, let's say a big nation is going to play in Houston. I'm telling you,
Yes.
those tickets are going to be the minimum will be that 1,400. They're going to be getting average of $2,500 for a ticket.
I agree.
I saw a poster for USA 94 when they were advertising tickets for like $40, $50, $60. I maybe I posted on the group chat. It was just like the tickets were so affordable because back then it was not as commercialized. It's such a shame that
Mhm.
things have
Yeah,
gone so.
I thought with a lot of games, stadiums, 80,000 stadiums, 75,000 seater stadiums, that the tickets would be hundred and something dollars. That's what I thought. I to
I'm
see eight
sure.
hundred dollars.
I'm sure the smaller games eventually you'll be able to find like if like I don't know if New Zealand is playing Slovakia. I'm sure
Well,
they'll.
you
I'm
might be
sure.
shocked. Though. You might be shocked.
You might be shocked.
You
You
might be
might be
shocked.
shocked because the World Cup, the thing that happens, though, what might end up happening too is that you're right because with the World Cup, the nations that are playing, if they have enough fans, they will bring their fans and they'll take a bulk of the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Then the home fans are
Local
supposed to
local
fill in the
people.
stadium, the local fans. So the fans will therefore get they might start doing ticket giveaways like they were doing in Qatar to fill up the stadiums. But soccer has become very popular in the US. It's kind of become, and then with all this activity going on with the Club World Cup and all of this, it will get to a stage where I think by that World Cup there'll be a fever. People might just go to watch games for the sake of, posting on socials, even if they
Yeah.
don't really care about it, the environment and the atmosphere. So you might be shocked that it won't be that cheap. It might drop a few hundred, but I don't think it will be really, really affordable. Because I calculated that if you have to spend 800, that's above the average person's wages if you buy three tickets just to see a
Mm.
World Cup, which is in a month. So you're spending your 1 month's wages to watch three games. Even if it drops to 1,500, that's still to 500, which is 1,500 for three games. That's still a lot.
Still a lot.
So
Mm-hmm.
this game was supposed to be the World Cup supposed to be for the everyday fan.
Everybody, you know.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that you're so what's the word? You have to have money. You know, say look at what Ayo said. Let me take this comment because it says sponsors are well on idea. Footy fantasy members need to be sponsored for tickets. So yeah, because the ticket prices are shocking everyone. I was telling my wife we must go and see the World Cup, and now I'm wondering how am I going to pay for three tickets? Because if she reminds me, it's a promise I made a long time ago. She reminds me of that, I will be in trouble because I don't know. I also posted a comment about soccer, about Nigerian football. Yeah, it all trickles down from the administration of our football. I think it all trickles down from the administration of the nation, the everything about that nation. That's why when you see you hope it's the direction we're going. I laughed because I don't have any hope in anything Nigerian. Yeah, I'm very proud of the direction African football is going. I'm happy that African nations are getting better, more technical. It's still the Afcon is still the toughest well, the continental tournament to qualify for. Qualifying from Africa is still the toughest. It's very hard. As a matter of fact, it's so hard to qualify for the World Cup from Africa that Egypt has probably been to the World Cup once
Like,
or twice in the past 20 years. And Nigeria struggles to qualify. South Africa struggles to qualify. This
more and more
Cameroon
countries.
has missed out. Yeah,
Senegal, Ghana. Where's Ghana?
Senegal. Yeah, where's Ghana? Ghana hasn't been to the World Cup in like I don't even remember the last time they were there. I think the last time they were there was in South Africa
Mm.
15
Yeah,
years ago.
Samoa,
So yeah,
Suarez.
yeah. So it's really really good because it means the tide is lifting all the boats while Nigeria is sinking.
Nigeria is just completely in there. We don't really deserve like things don't just happen on their own. There needs to be people creating things for the benefit of society. And when that's not when no one is thinking that way, everyone is just out for themselves. It's hard to create something that is good.
Yeah, it's sad, but let's not get into Nigeria anymore. We'll be here all day. So let's dive into the FA Cup games. I know we didn't all see the games, so we'll talk about the games in general. Um, so who wants to start? Wale, Michael,
Yeah,
which
I
one?
could start.
Hmm.
The Man City game was the one I saw a little bit of. I mean, it was a good comeback win for Man City. They're still kind of you can tell that Man City is not the old Man City that we're used to, which is that feels like a well-oiled machine that is working on all fronts. Haaland missed a penalty. He missed a few opportunities. I think he also was taken off injured, so that's something else they're probably going to have to contend with. But it was a good comeback win from them. They went down first half. Second half, they got a quick equalizer. Haaland, I think within the first 3 to 4 minutes. And one of the substitutes, which is one of their players that they got over the break, Mamouche,
Mamouche.
he scored the winner for them. And they had a few more opportunities. Kepa, he could have. I felt like he could have saved the second goal, but he didn't make the save. And then the Aston Villa, Manchester United, Looney. Is he a Looney or they sold him completely? Rashford.
Is it Looney? Is it
Okay.
Looney?
Looney, he put it on for the city, He scored, I think, like 2 goals. I think a penalty or something, too.
Yeah, he scored. The second one was a penalty.
Yeah, I think, and then I think there was the Nottingham Forest and I think it was
Brighton.
Yeah,
I did watch that one. I watched that game.
Yeah,
It was not a bad game. Goals were scarce, but otherwise it was quality. There weren't that many chances. There were a few disallowed goals. The goalkeeper, especially Forest's goalkeeper Sells, who might be one of the top 3 goalkeepers in the Premier League this season. He was immense for them, especially in the penalty shootout. But it was very evenly balanced game, and I thought it could have gone either way. And congratulations to Forest. And then I caught highlights of Fulham versus Palace. Palace looked really good. Happy for Eddie Nketiah to see him getting some minutes and doing well. They have Iberici.
Yeah, just call him Iberici. Make it easier for yourself.
I'm surprised. I'll be surprised to see him stay at Palace. Adam Wharton, another really great player they have. So I've been impressed with Fulham this season. I thought it would be more competitive, but Palace looked streets ahead, and they deserve to go ahead. And I fancy their chances too. They'll be the first. This will be the first trophy in their history if they won. So they're my dark horse to win it this year.
Yeah, when you get to the semifinals, there's a high chance of winning it. But I think of the 4 teams that made it to this stage, it might be the weakest. With all due respect to them.
With all due respect, of course, the others are all Champions League contenders. So
they're much stronger teams. I mean,
you might also say perhaps the chance that the others are fighting for European qualification while Palace can focus on this might play to their benefit.
Fair enough, but the week of the FA Cup semi-final is usually going to be like what you call it's going to be a free weekend, unless I haven't looked at the schedule, but usually
Villa's still in Europe though. Villa's still in Europe.
Oh yeah, Villa's still in Europe. I forgot that. That's true. Because what I was going to say is, unless you're in Champions League, you actually read my mind. Unless you're in the Champions League, which might come the next week. So Villa might still be. That might be a problem for Villa, but Man City, I've got no worries in Europe.
Yeah, in the semis, it's Palace versus Villa and then City versus Forest for the semi-final draw.
That's a tough one. I can say that Forest could beat Villa, could beat City. They could. City could beat Forest, but Villa actually one of those funny teams because their league position, I believe league positions are correct in the sense that it shows you where a team is at, how a team is playing, but it kind of also summarizes what kind of team Villa is, because Villa is a team that goes, mountain high, valley low. They kind of go up and down. They've been.
Unai Emery is a classic cup manager, isn't he? He's always Unai Emery has always done, even his time at Arsenal, which no one would ever call a success. We did quite well in the Europa League that year. So Unai Emery for sure.
Yeah, because I thought they would be comfortably in the top 4 by now, given their performances, the way they beat some top teams. But they can't just go to a smaller team and just play a lackluster game. So it's they're a team I wouldn't bet on, to be fair. So Villa could, Palace could beat them. Well, Wale, what do you think?
I mean, it can go both ways, right? Villa, they're one of those teams, as you said, where they blow hot and cold. Arsenal is one of those teams that Arsenal struggled to beat recently. along with Fulham. But yeah, it just depends on what team shows up on that day, right? So he sets them up well for this time. Again, Michael alluded to the fact that on Emery's teams tend to do well in cup competitions. Maybe that plays to the advantage. But the only downside to it is that they're playing in Europe, right? So that fatigue might kick in and might work against them. So it's 50-50, in my own
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. The Manchester United exile, Rashford, I wouldn't call him a loanee, he's an exile because I don't even think he's coming back. If Villa don't buy him, he's probably going to go somewhere else. I think it's over for him. I'm happy for him.
Happy for
Uh,
him.
yeah, I'm happy for him.
And he's a
It's
great
not.
human being, of course. So you want to see him do well.
Yeah, I want to. It's not personal. I can understand why the club wants to sell him. I'm not. I don't support how they handle the situation. I've maybe that's why I'm not in the football business, but I don't see the point of raising a child, bringing them to maturity, and then not putting in the work to take care of them. I think it's a bigger, without going into Manchester United, but I think it's a bigger issue around football where eh, toxicity from outside, this culture of toxicity in football and social media has crept into football, and it kind of also affects the way clubs also behave because we can see now that a lot of this was a guy that should have been a one club man.
Mhm.
If there was somebody you could say that deserved to be a one club man, it would have been him. Because he been with this club since he was 9. He came in, he showed promise, showed that he could be. So if there was something wrong somewhere, where did it break down? Compare it with, for example, that's why I respect Real Madrid. Look at the way Real Madrid managed Vinicius through his tough times. Um, Look at the way Real Madrid managed Vinicius. Because if this was flipped at Vinicius when he was having those lean years, when everybody was like, "This guy's not showing promise," he wouldn't still be in Real Madrid. This is the club that's a paramount club in the world. If you know what I'm saying, this is the top club. So how then does this club show patience and manage this guy well till he becomes probably the number one player in the world? Whereas other clubs are struggling with doing these kind of things. Let me take this comment quickly. This then so that we'll dive back in. Ayo says it will be a Villa City final. He continues by saying, "I think Villa will already be knocked out by PSG by the time the FA Cup semi-finals comes around." Don't be too sure. Don't be too sure about that. PSG is another hot and cold team, but they're showing good form at the right time. Benvindo says Rashford is what happens when you work in a toxic environment and affects your productivity. Good to see him enjoy his football again. Yeah, I read some comments about of some fans when they were talking about him performing now, and somebody said, "Oh, that don't worry, with time, Aston Villa will see that this guy is just a hot and cold player. That he's so inconsistent that what you're going to see at the end of the day will be that he's at best nothing different from Rafael Leao. You expect so much from him, and then he'll end up disappointing you." And I'm going, what? Why do people always do this? Why can't they just? Because maybe they've made a comment in the past where they said this guy is finished or whatever, and that then they see the guy playing, looking good now, and they just have to double down on. Maybe I'm doing the same. Maybe he's right, and maybe I'm the one doubling down because
No, I don't
I
think you
believe
are though.
Rashford is a good player.
No, I don't think you are though, because remember, there's a news that came out recently, and I think I shared it in the group chat. This guy could easily have been playing for Barcelona, if not for a few issues where a certain player I heard did not move. Barcelona were going to sign him. So imagine him, for a system or a club like Barcelona eyeing him and thinking he's going to fit into their system and fit, in terms of productivity and a system. That tells you that he still holds some type of value, regardless. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
People just, it's the recency bias because he's not been in great form much more recently. You kind of now whitewash every great thing he has done in the past, and you're like, you're castigating him. Meanwhile, he can contribute, right? Now, that's not saying maybe he wouldn't be at that consistent top level he was at his peak. This is where sometimes I feel like some of these players, we don't give them grace because they peak so early that we kind of just forget. Do you understand? So, because Rashford
Yeah.
is to me one of those players that peaked early, right?
Yeah.
And the mileage on him, we forget how much mileage in some of these guys that we don't give them grace. When
Case in point, Raheem Sterling, right?
yeah. Morales is slightly different but similar, where we forget, right? But then again, you cannot argue. Well, as a club, you should do your due diligence to and say how much has this guy? Does this guy have enough in the tank to contribute efficiently and effectively for what you're trying to do on a bigger scale? But yeah, he almost this transfer could easily have been a Barcelona player and not playing for Villa.
And I don't think the Villa move was a bad move because they also got a good coach.
Mhm.
I, to add to what you said, Wale, there's the other side of it, which is what people also, I think, have done is that because of Ronaldo, Messi, players like them, Lewandowski, Salah, Haaland, they now expect players because we keep hearing these goals and assist things all the time, and they expect players to be that consistent all the time. Forgetting that if it was that easy, Mo Salah wouldn't be the first player to score a certain amount of goals, 30 plus goals for 5 straight seasons. I mean, Shearer didn't do that, and Nicole did not do it. Van Nistelrooy didn't do it. Henry didn't do it. But they expect these guys to be matching these um,
Numbers.
numbers. And then the other side of it is they don't turn around and tell you guys that are matching those numbers. They now start finding excuses for them, which is something we'll talk about in the next topic, which I think we should segue into. We use it as a segue into that topic. Mo Salah is giving us one of the best seasons ever in Premier League football. He is been very consistent from day one. He's without him being this consistent, Liverpool would not be where they are. And I am not trying to say Liverpool is not a good team, but I don't think Liverpool are as good as being runaway title leaders. If you look at the numbers and analyze it, they don't have that many goals in this team apart from Salah. There are not that many scorers in this team. The other guys score in, bursts. In the past 2-3 months, you could say between the other three strikers, I don't think they have 10 goals across them. Maybe they have 4 goals each, and that's Nunes, Jota, and
Yes.
Diaz. These guys are not consistent enough to be the guys firing a team to the league if Salah wasn't there. If Salah wasn't in this form, if Salah was dropping 20 goals a season, you wouldn't say that, you get what I'm trying to say. You wouldn't say that these guys would take them to the league. But what
No,
Salah is
okay,
doing
not,
is
not to take
phenomenal.
anything away from what Salah's doing, but they've also had everything go right for them. Like just like for example, Mo Salah might be having a very quiet game and he just gets like 2 or 3 chances are going to break away and he's extremely efficient,
Yeah.
scores. He's scored 9 penalties this season, which is more than I think Arsenal, City, and Chelsea combined or some ridiculous statistic like that, which all credit to him.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
a lot of things have just broken right for them, which I suppose you have to do things right. There's no such thing as 100% luck. But yeah, they have a Brian Gravenberch in midfield has been tremendous for them. Virgil van Dijk class as always. So I think there's just everything.
Allison's making saves like like his 3 goalkeepers.
Yeah, against PSG. But
Yeah.
don't worry, they're gonna, for lack of a better term, they're gonna find out pretty soon. Don't worry.
No, well, they're not gonna find out this season.
No, they'll
It's gonna
find
be
out.
next season because
Yeah,
they have to rebuild the whole team. They're losing some players. I think Salah stays. But I also don't
You
think
think Salah stays?
Yes, I think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'll be
because
shocked. I don't think he's staying.
I'd lean towards no. I
I
lean
don't think
towards
he's
him
staying.
leaving. I
I
think
don't
Virgil
think.
stays. I think Virgil stays, and that's it.
I think
I don't even think Virgil stays.
Mm.
I think they're gonna have to pay one of them, and I think it's Salah that they will pay.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
Virgil is older, so if they're picking Virgil, it might be because of money. Maybe he's getting less money, but he's asking for top highest paid defender in the world kind of money. So why
But
would they pay
why
him
would?
that and not pay Salah?
Yeah, no, I think he leaves. I think he goes for one more final payday in terms of Virgil. I think he's
Yeah.
gonna be his
Talking
last
Middle
payday.
East or like talking like Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern type situation? Because there's not that
How
many.
he's
No.
33, no?
I think it's PSG. I think he goes to
Yes.
PSG,
PSG is PSG
and they
still
pay
signing
him.
old players?
Yeah, I mean they need someone of his stature, of his caliber. Anyway, even
But
from
they're
a leader.
gonna be signing a guy at 33 to pay him that kind of
Yeah, I
money?
know, right? Exactly. PSG have pivoted towards youth, and
They've
it's
I
it's
would
pivoted
say
towards younger
they only
players.
need two more years from him. Nothing more, nothing less. He can
Okay.
still play at that elite level. 2 years, in my own
Okay.
opinion, right? Because just because of his style of play. Even Salah, I think you can just because of how. See, this is where I see that with Salah. I think Salah too can still give you a good 2 3 years, right?
3 years.
I've always said this. There's a little bit of a cheat code with Muslim players. I'm sorry to say, from their fasting regimen, for me they're always a little bit more disciplined, and you can just tell he's sort of learned a way to play conservatively, but become more efficient. And it's not a lot of players that figure that out, right? Even tackles. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Salah is not going for full blown tackles like most players. So he's less. He's injured less. Um, he's just a smarter player. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
For me, he's
It's
one of the most smarter players we've seen in the past, I'll say 4 to 5 years, and it's shown in his numbers. He's shown in his in the numbers, in his consistency level, and how effective he's become. To me, he's become even more effective now as he's aged compared to when
yeah.
he was younger.
When it was
Um,
it's
So to answer your question, I do enjoy player comparisons. I think it's a privilege that we've gotten to see so many players over the course of our lifetime. And Cristiano Ronaldo in those 3 years between '06 and '09 was deadly, unbelievable. And the Man United team was not. I mean, he really carried them, same way Salah is carrying in a similar fashion. He scored so many goals and assists. He's the only one who's won the Ballon d'Or while in the Premier League, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think let's not forget how amazing those 3 years from CR7 was. And yeah, I do enjoy. I think what brought this about is people are starting to, as great as Salah has been, let's not forget CR7, and it is a fun comparison to look back, and all the perspectives are valid.
Wale,
I
what do you
mean,
say?
my own is it's a double-edged sword, right? When you make all these comparisons, because on one hand they're like usually very like engaging in terms of like the different playing styles and achievements of the players, but on the other hand you're worried about like it's for us as neutrals and as fans is like genuine, like it shifts the focus from like genuine analysis to like banter, right? And banters that you can feel sometimes that are overdone, right? But overall, you enjoy the nuances that this type of
Comparison.
comparison brings. But for me, again, if soccer, just like any other sports, it always evolves. You always do players a disservice when you compare them, right? When they're not even playing in the same era, they're not playing within the same league. It's the same thing. Leagues are completely league football is the same thing as how it's completely different from Champions League football, right? So there's not for me personally you can if players are playing consistently in the same competition, it's easier for you to compare apples to apples, the same year, the same time window. But it becomes a little bit difficult for you to start making this analysis when players are from different eras. You can do them, but it's not always going to be a true reflective analysis. You could again because again for me, it's a lot more. Football now is a lot more different compared to like 10 years ago versus
Yeah.
also 20 years ago.
20 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
I think comparisons are good. I always wonder why though. What is the main reason for it? Because the Salah versus Ronaldo one, I think there's kind of like you said it like, and I'm not trying to pick your words, but or pick on your words, but you said, Wale, that Liverpool will find out. They will find out. Now, why you're saying that is because you're an Arsenal fan, and it kind of hurts you that Liverpool winning the league. I'm a Manchester United fan, and so I get that feeling. And Michael also kind of said the same thing when he said that everything has gone their way. If it was flipped the other side and it was an Arsenal team running away with the league and everything has gone your way, you would say what you would say was, well, you play what's in front of you. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes what is happening is that people are finding ways to make excuses or diminish the achievement, not necessarily about raising it up. I'm not saying that that's what everybody's doing, but sometimes that's what it feels like. Oh, Salah is looking so good now. He's the first Premier League player to score this amount of goals. I forgot the exact number in 5 straight years. Have this amount of goals and assists for 5 straight years. And then when people hear that, they go, "You mean Henry never did it? You mean Van Nistelrooy never did it? Oh, you mean Cristiano Ronaldo never did it? Oh, but Cristiano Ronaldo was the best ever Premier League player." Might not even be true, but you bring that up to try and diminish that. Sometimes that's what people sometimes do. So that's why sometimes for me it gets annoying, because take that away, remove that, and just enjoy the moment, enjoy the player. The comparisons have a place, but many times these comparisons come up for disrespectful reasons. Great example is the one that has refused to die. Even 20 years after these players retire, it won't die. Cristiano Ronaldo versus Messi. Compare that to Maradona versus Pele. That was to me the perfect comparison growing up, because there was nobody you would talk to that would try and diminish the other guy's achievement. They would only tell you why this guy was better. They would tell you, "Oh, Maradona was so good because of his style of play. Look at how good he was, or whatever he used to dribble."
I think some English people would call him like a cheat and all that. I think some English people would consider him a cheater.
Well, that's the English people, but you know why? Because that's very personal.
Yes.
But when you care Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo argument, you go, "Oh, Messi would never do it at a cold Saturday in Stoke." All this kind of. So that's why, for me, sometimes it feels like these comparisons are a little bit. I don't know what you guys think about that.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. In my own opinion, though, I don't compare people to diminish anyone, right? Because for one, records are meant to be broken. If the records are not meant to be, they're set and then they're meant to be broken. That we as human beings, that's just how we're also wired. Where we tend to, if someone accomplished certain things, tend to now say, okay, now that this person has attained this, who else came closer to this feat, right? So it's a subconscious thing sometimes that human beings do. Me, when I say this or when I make this point, it's not for me. It's not to even diminish whatever any other player has done. And I had this similar arguments with one of my very close friends recently in another group chat where I was making a point to him that, hey, with what at this time, with what Salah has done till now, like till date. Obviously, there's more football to be played at the end of the year. He should be at the front a front runner for the Ballon d'Or, right? Without a question. But now and his point to me was that calm down, slow down. There's still a lot more soccer. There's still a lot more football to go. There's still the Champions League. There's everything. But remember, prior to this is a couple of weeks ago, Liverpool was still in the Champions League. Now they're not in the Champions League. He's having this excellent season, which was the point he was making. Now, does that, even though he's having these crazy numbers, does that now significantly affect or impact his ability to lay claim if he doesn't win the Champions League?
It would.
Right?
I mean, it's all about big moments, right? Like for example, like Zidane would win it because of ability to deliver in those big moments. So if like Real Madrid wins, or Barcelona makes the Champions League, and like Mbappe scores that big winner, Lamine Yamal or whomever, that's just going to be resonate in people's minds versus consistency in league football, right? Like one of the biggest travesties in football history is Thierry Henry never
Not
winning
winning.
Ballon d'Or, despite his amazing consistency he showed year to year. But because he didn't have those big moments, like for France, Zidane would always take the big moments, and unfortunately for Arsenal, he just did not have a great record in finals. So that big moment, like a Champions League final, a World Cup final, tends to stick out more in people's minds versus the league year to year, week to week consistency that people like Salah and Thierry Henry have displayed.
So which means people don't. It is the recency bias, right?
It is recency bias, and this is why
Yeah.
I like the comparisons, because we tend to just do recency bias and forget how great some people were.
People were in the past.
Era. Like look, I told like what Andy Cole did at Newcastle, for example. That's what and like Ruud van Nistelrooy, like some amazing strikers who came in and have done some awesome. We just tend to kind of sometimes diminish them by bringing up more.
Nobody talks about Aguero anymore. I'm mentioning him. Nobody talks about Aguero anymore. Like he just that kind of thing. And what I like, let me stitch what the two of you said together, because there's something you said actually, which is actually true. The recency bias is there, but the moment, the week to week thing, it's not actually always what gets people off their seats, and what gets people off their seats they remember, which was why that not Cristiano, Maradona versus Pele comparisons used to be very great. Just going back to that, because people saw a lot of that on video. It was played over and over again compared to what Pele did. It was after Pele died that they actually took the time to start showing his goals on TV, and people were like, huh? So he could dribble 5 players. He did all of this? So why did you guys ever say? What people used to say about Pele was he scored 1,000 goals. That was what you would hear, because Pele was before our time. But then when we now started seeing the videos of the goals, we're like, wait, this guy was dribbling like George Best. He was doing what every other player that we thought he was a tapping matcher.
Also, Santos, man, in like the late 50s and early 60s, like 58 to 63, what he did was, unfortunately, most of it is not on tape, but just what he did was unbelievable.
I thought he was a tapping merchant. So why I remember this was actually Ronaldo was not the first person to win Ballon d'Or. It was actually Michael Owen. It was not the Premier League player to win Ballon d'Or.
You got me. Okay, yeah. I have thoughts about that, but
I just remembered that. Do you know why I remembered that? Because Michael Owen also had the same thing where he had a great season with Liverpool. They didn't necessarily perform in the league, but they were performing in the cup. But they were performing in the cup, and he was the big man in all those competitions. Like he kept coming up with the goal in the semi-final, the goal.
They stole the FA Cup from Arsenal.
Yeah, and he was the one that stole it. That goal where he went around the keeper. So he had a season where he scored consistently across, and then he crowned it. So that's kind of what would happen if, like Wale said, you get to the Champions League final, it's Real Madrid or Barcelona playing in it, and Lamine Yamal calls one into the top corner, or Mbappe does the same. I mean, they're gonna win the Ballon d'Or. It's not gonna be Salah, because like no one's gonna remember what Salah did. When they're voting, they'll remember. They'll be like, "Yeah, okay, Salah did all of that. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. this is my guy." So that's really. Let me take some comments quickly. Ayo says that Glasner deserves credit for turning things around, especially early season form was very poor. That's true. At a point, they were talking of sacking him at Crystal Palace. He says Salah and VVD look like they will stay. I was hoping. I hope you're wrong. I hope I'm wrong too, because I believe the same. But I really want Salah to leave so that they can really rebuild is really, really hard and long. I also says that PSG have changed their policy. They're not signing older players anymore, which is sensible. Akinola says that Yes, it has become more annoying, especially because we tend to use stats today. A bowler that passes the eye test will always be a bowler, in my opinion. I take that. He says the bowler that passes the eye test will always be a bowler. And that's actually another part of this conversation. And I think that's where we're going to, the last part of it that we'll hit, and then we'll move on. There are players today that, the players from the past, I mean to say that today wouldn't fit in. They didn't have numbers. Like someone was talking of player comparison. There was this time when they were talking about they would have been the best things in sliced bread. And they started pulling stats and pulling all of this. He has the most assists, this, that, that. And the only person they found that could conveniently they could compare with him was Lampard, because Lampard scored a lot of goals. Like I think he scored the most goals from midfield. And then I looked in my head and I said, with all due respect to Lampard, he was a wonderful player. He was a great player. But if I was going to list the best three attacking midfielders I saw in the Premier League, I'm not putting Lampard in among them.
I might disagree with you on that, but
Yeah, but that's all subjective, because I'm definitely not picking, most likely picking Steven Gerrard first. I mean, despite being a Manchester United fan, he will be one of the first guys I'm picking there. And he might not have all those goals, he might not have all the assists and all of that, but so this thing of he has XYG, XG, this that has gotten to the point where you're going. Rui Costa would not even be mentioned. Redondo would not even be mentioned if we're talking about footballers. Zidane has a very poor goal and assist ratio compared to some of the guys I'm mentioning. You can't put Zidane near Lampard when it comes to goals and assists. You can't even put Ronaldo near Lampard.
But who's the so? Anyways, but that's what I'm saying, right? That's why these comparisons are always weird to me, right? Again, different eras, different style of play. What are the categories we're using? Does this pass the eye test? Right? Is this player an expressive footballer? Right? Because are you considering a JJ Okocha type player who will dribble and not be effective, or you're considering a player like more of a Gerrard who is much more effective with use of space and time and ball, right? So they're different. Like if there was a way for us to standardize, okay, let's say three of us agree these are the categories. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to categorize. It's a much more easier argument to have, right? But there's no standards, and then it's subjective. What makes a player appealing to you, right? Which might be completely different to what makes a player appealing to me, or maybe the style of play I want to adapt. That's why sometimes these conversations sometimes they're not. It's not straightforward or clear cut.
It's not scientific.
Yes, it's not, right? Because we just gave a good example. You just said Steven Gerrard. You just said someone said no, they'll take Lampard. Me, I can come and say, you know what? I'll choose Bergkamp. Do you understand? It's not. It's different, and everybody can give their own reasons as to why, and it will be justified based off of the context in which that person is examining. There's just no way for us. We'll never get the answers to this. This is something that has preceded us. It will continue until after we're gone. People will always do this, but for reasons that is best known to them. But at the end of the day, I think it's such a subjective issue that it's very, very tricky. You're not where everybody's just gonna have. It's something. How should I say? Like everybody will always agree to disagree, and move on. That's always gonna be the solution to such discussions and comparisons.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely the respect factor. Just respect the pioneers, right? You might prefer but don't diminish what someone in the past did just to make your guy look better. That's the part that we need to, as much as possible, call out when we see.
Yeah, I think it also goes to this, that your team, the team you support, you would have fonder memories of their glory days than the guy whose team was suffering. Only a neutral sometimes could But then, is anybody really neutral?
Now,
Because when your team is doing well, they're
bad
hating on
memories,
your
right?
team.
Are you
Eh?
really? Is anyone really a neutral?
No, because if your team is doing well, they're hating on them.
You might also have bad memories, like as an Arsenal fan, for example, like Didier Drogba. If someone mentions
Mhm.
Didier Drogba to me as an Arsenal fan, I get cold.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's not Drogba is up there for me because of the suffering that I endured at his hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
that's
it's
it.
always it's not
Okay,
always a one size fits all conversation.
I'm gonna ask you guys this question. I want you to think about it because you only have 15 seconds each to answer. You don't have to explain, but this is a question because now we're gonna do a quick comparison. Salah, Ronaldo, who has had more impact in the Premier League? Now think about this. Let me take this comment, then I'll come to you. I'll start with you, Michael, when I come back. So Ayo says, I think all the comparison has probably stemmed from the American sports influence or culture of LeBron versus MJ, Brady versus Mahomes. LeBron versus MJ, another annoying one. So Michael, who has had more impact in the Premier League? Now we're going to do a hot take.
Yeah,
Salah
I get,
versus
you said
Ronaldo.
not to justify, just a one word answer.
Just tell me yes. No, you can
I'm just
tell me,
gonna
but
say,
it just has to be 15
I'm just gonna
seconds.
say, I'm just gonna say Ronaldo, man. I just think the peak that he reached in those years are just unbelievable. And like I said, Salah's been around longer, had more years, and he's done some great things. But just he was head and shoulders the best player in the league, and maybe it's a little bit of nostalgia. But no, I stand. I think I choose by Ronaldo. It's a slim margin, but Ronaldo is my answer.
Wale?
I would say Ronaldo. It's still Ronaldo just because of again as a personal bias. See, all these things could have been different. If you know there was a time he was supposed to be an Arsenal player and they just didn't act fast, right? He's think about it in one instance. If he had gone to Arsenal and the trajectory of his career changes compared to how effective he was also for Manchester United. You really can't predict this thing. But based off of his history and what we've seen, I think he's had a better impact in the Premier League, even in terms of influence for younger players. You would see much more younger players now make reverence to them learning a lot from a player like Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of his work ethics, in terms of he how the extra efforts he puts into the craft compared to Salah. Not a lot is known about Salah's routine, his regimen, and what he does. He's more of a we don't know much about him. Like he's
He's a very he's
outside
a
of his
reserved
football.
guy. Yeah, he's a
Yes,
very
right.
reserved
But
guy.
compared
Yeah.
to we know a lot more players can relate more to
Because
Ronaldo.
he's a social media whore.
Exactly. So
Great player, but
maybe after this era, maybe when stories
Mhm.
start coming out and maybe we start having more documentaries about Salah, maybe that aspect will come. But for now, just based off of their history,
but
I say Ronaldo much more impactful.
we should not underestimate the impact of Salah in the Muslim world, though.
In the Muslim world,
I'm
absolutely.
sure he's definitely a lot of people would look up to him over there. It's unanimous. I would
Many
also pick Ronaldo as having a greater impact. The years he played here would be memorable. And then the guy was like he had everything. He was also so handsome that some girls
Yeah,
you just see sometimes the only reason they started watching football was Ronaldo. I don't know any girl that started watching football because of Salah.
No,
I'm yet
I
to meet
won't.
them.
I
I
know.
won't
I
have a,
believe.
I won't have a hot take. If you ask Salah, Salah might also pick Ronaldo.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All
Okay,
right. So
can I pose a small question, not to hijack, but what
yes.
can Salah do in the next few years to surpass Ronaldo?
Oh, um, win another league title, win another Champions League title, win the Ballon d'Or. Because he's not gonna get the Premier League goal record.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's why people said even Kane just realized he's not gonna get, and Kane left the league because there's no point. I've gotten second, let me leave. He's not gonna get a goal record. So if he wins another title and maybe another Champions League, then he gets into the conversation, and then
In
maybe a
addition to
Ballon d'Or.
this, or excluding this, because he's already won. He
No,
already won.
that's what I'm saying. After this one, because this would be his second,
Yes.
and all these years, Ronaldo won like three in
Ronaldo
a
won
row.
3 in a row. Yes.
Yeah. And in those three in a row, he was arguably the best player in the world because he was winning it just before Messi blew up. It was after he
Yeah,
won
it
the
was Kaká. I mean, the first year was there was Kaká,
yeah.
then
Then he took
Kaká,
over
Messi,
from
and
Kaká. Then Messi came over. I think Messi now caught up with him in the last year, but didn't even overtake him until after that. So it's well, people will say Messi never overtook him, but
did
you
the
know,
line.
Yeah,
yeah.
but I would still like to say we should, in saying all this too, though, I don't think none of us on this panel is diminishing the impact of Salah. Salah has been
I
immense contributor to being impactful on top, as an African ambassador, as a player, even his history with not being able to play perfectly or be a rise to become a superstar like Ronaldo, but he came back to the league and proved himself. So we're not taking
and
anything away from him.
I'm best of all, and I'm not trying to disrespect Ronaldo with this one, but from what I know about Salah, because we all know them from afar, he's a much more humble guy.
Mhm.
He's a very nice guy, really, very cool family kind of guy, down to
He's not.
earth.
I doesn't have
So
the arrogance gene, which arrogance is not always a bad thing, right? Like Thierry Henry was somewhat arrogant, but
yeah, but we all warm up to people that are not arrogant. If you get what I'm saying, like we mere mortals warm up because we're like,
yes.
you're already up there. Why not just be humble? So you get what I'm saying. So it's something that warms up people to him. I don't know too many people that say bad things about him.
Mhm.
So now we're gonna go to one. There's just two rules in this case. What one player? You have to be one player from the teams that are getting relegated. Would you want your team to sign this summer? Now, for both of you, you now have a very tricky one because you might end up choosing the same player, but so it has to be one player from Wolves, Ipswich, Leicester, or Southampton. We are assuming that this team will get relegated. If they don't get relegated, that's fine because we're just playing fantasy here. So we'll start with you, Wale. Because my last question I started with Michael. Which
Yeah,
player?
to me, I struggled with this question, and I still haven't even found an answer. But maybe Joao Gomez. I don't know. This question was not a favorite question because again, if if they were that good, they won't be getting relegated. Um, but maybe indeed Joao Gomez. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't really have an answer for this question. I apologize, but maybe I don't know. Joao Gomez. I'm not sure.
Joao Gomez of Wolves.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, he's a fine player. He's a fine player. Being relegated doesn't necessarily mean that you're not good. I mean, you signed the last keeper from a relegated team.
Oh,
Yeah.
Declan. Yeah.
No, not Declan.
Ramsdale.
Oh,
Ramsdale.
Ramsdale,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you got
Well,
him from.
yeah, you can see the flashes. That's why I said maybe a Joao Gomez or an Ndidi. But we already have players that fit that mold. The reason why I said Ndidi is for a team like Arsenal, we might lose Partey because I still don't know what it is we're doing with Partey because we haven't re-signed him, and I think because of the controversies that are around him and that issue he has that is not fully resolved. I think they're probably going to part ways with him. So, um, and he plays an integral role for Arsenal that I don't know if we've sorted it out yet or if we have a backup for him.
Okay, that makes sense. Michael?
Yeah, I also struggled a bit. Considered a few players. I thought about Wolves, Matthias Cunha, but the fact he signed a new contract just turned me off. Thought about Tyler Dibbling at Southampton, but the player I came up to, extremely underrated player, is Liam Delap of Ipswich, former Manchester United academy prospect, very complete
Manchester
striker.
City. Manchester City.
Manchester City academy prospect. His father was a famous player for Stoke City back in the day, and he's a very complete striker. Has it all. Obviously, I want us to aim higher, but in terms of squad depth, that would be a really good piece to have. So that's my answer.
Let's aim
Yeah.
higher, please.
That is the guy I thought would have been the answer. That was my answer. I was gonna go with Tyler Dibley. Then I thought about Delap. it's not about aiming higher. One, that guy's not going to be too expensive. Two, the guy is 20.
He
He's
has it all.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at all the 20-year-old strikers in the Premier League and name one that's better than that guy. Even take it 20 to 22, apart from Haaland. Haaland, I think, is 23, 24 now. So there's none. He's better than, if he came to Manchester United, he's already better than, at this moment, he's already better than Haaland. He's better than Zexi. So he's going to walk straight into the number 9 position unless they sign somebody else. And I think if we're getting him, we should get somebody else that he would be understudied, so that he would understudy, so that it will be him and Højlund under. Because I've always said something that, and I think Arsenal should listen to this carefully, because I don't get it. When in the glory days of the Arsenal versus Manchester United rivalry, the thing both teams never lacked was strikers. The thing both teams never lacked was strikers. There was a time, Alex Ferguson would say you have to have 4 strikers in a team. So I don't get this thing of teams having only one striker, one out-and-out striker, like, and then they have a lot of false 9 and forwards, like say they have only Haaland.
Yeah, well, I guess back when everybody played 4-4-2, right? Everybody played 4-4-2, so you need 4 strikers like York and Cole and Sheringham and Solskjaer, or like Henry and Bergkamp and Wiltord and Kanu, just 4 people for 2 positions. But now they're playing just one up top who's going to start most games. You're not going to get somebody who's going to agree to be a permanent backup. That's why teams only invest in one striker.
So go down from 4 to 3.
Yeah, go down from 4 to 3, or at least get 2, because I can name 3 top teams that don't have 2.
But we should have team. Even 2 is not enough. If you really think about it, if you factor in,
it's hard to get somebody who agreed to be on the bench, right? Someone who agreed, like Sesko, for example. Sesko, the reason why we didn't get Sesko last summer is because he was like, he did not want to come up and be back up to Kai Havertz.
It's because teams are not doing what they used to do in the past. What they used to do in the past was rotate. That's one.
Rotation.
You don't keep playing one. Like when you had York, if you go back, you mentioned 4 guys now, and you mentioned Wiltord and all of that. Go back and look at when you had York, Sheringham, Cole, and Solskjaer.
And Dwight York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know that season that they won the treble, that most of them, all of them, none of them scored less than 15 goals total?
Mm-hmm.
I think the lowest one was like 12. I think that, but one was 12. I think that was Sheringham. Because in the FA Cup, they'll play this one. The other one will rest. There was Champions League. He kept rotating and he kept them on their toes. Same thing when he had Wiltord, Beckham, Henry, and I forgot who the 4th guy was. And Kanu, one game, Kanu will come in 68 minutes, score a hat trick. There was a time Wiltord was the leading scorer. You kept.
It's hard, like for example, Messi and Ronaldo brought in the era of like the star player playing like 60 games a season, scoring 100 goals. Like it's hard to rotate those big. Like Bukayo Saka always plays when he's healthy. Salah plays every game. So I agree with rotation. It just seems practically most people, star players, want to play every game, and the team needs them to play every game.
But don't you think
it's a challenge?
Is it not better to have them more rested for games and target games?
Yeah, I agree. Because, Michael, think about it this way. The amount of games these guys are playing and the rest intervals was not as high as even back then. Like,
I agree.
It's ridiculous. Like,
I agree with you. Just the actual practicality of implementing and getting a world class player to agree to sit on the bench.
Now, there's so many competitions. If they claim, and this is what blows my mind. If we claim, what's the name of that stuff, the statistics stuff where they're able to read and see red zone, yellow zone, green zone, you really can't use this.
Sports
analytics. Yes, sports analytics.
I have an underrated. Like, strikers are more expensive than midfielders, who are more expensive than defenders. Like, so it's just hard. I guess it's hard to stockpile really good strikers who are good enough.
Okay, hold on. Let me give you an example. It's hard to stockpile strikers that are good enough, right? Okay. Arsenal lost Eddie Nketiah. I wouldn't believe that guy also agreed to go and sit on the bench in Crystal Palace, because he went to Crystal Palace to be under what's his name, Matete, right? That's what he was. That guy was already established there. He left Arsenal bench. I think one of the main reasons he left Arsenal was that when, despite Gabriel Jesus being injured a lot, they didn't give him a chance.
Because I mean, with all respect, I
started
give him
playing
my love.
Havertz.
He's not good enough to be a starter for Arsenal. Like fair
No, but
to
at
him.
least give him games. When is he going to be good enough if you don't give him games?
At the end of the day, you know someone's ceiling, right? Like at the end of the day, you know how good somebody can be, and that's why you trying to. Like, one of the reasons why they got rid of people like Nketiah was because we have Nwaneri coming up, and we need to find games for him.
But they're not the same type of player.
They're not the same type of player.
Yeah. So my point here is, granted, what you can, the argument I would expect, I would think would make here is maybe get players that are multifaceted, right? So get a player who can play, and the funny thing is Arsenal are able to do this in the back line, but for some reason they've not figured it out with the front line and the midfield. What they tend to do now is they get players who are more suited to the wings and the midfield. But they haven't gotten players who can play the wings and then the attacking position, right? So that's where they struggle. They always like
to a little bit like Martinelli.
But are they strikers? And even if they could fit in, have they given them the opportunity to prove themselves? The answer is no. Now we're using a completely different CDM center midfield to play as a striker, and you still have all these players that they can also use. But the thing is, you need at the very least right now 3 good strikers, maybe two very well proven strikers that they are challenging. Like if that front one does not do good in 2 games consecutively, that next one is collecting that jersey straight up. Right? And you have one, and then as a third, you can then have like an understudy. An understudy that on a given day can come in and act as a super sub. And we're like, we have this in our arsenal. And that's how. So to me, I agree with Bucci. Not 4, but at least 3 strikers. You need 3 strikers, and it's not anything. Now that strikers, if God bless you, they can play on the wing. Great, they have backup to the wingers. But you need 3 strikers. Yeah, and Arsenal has that whole thing where we know what our issue and our problem is, and we don't fix it. And a lot of clubs are saying,
Arsenal don't even have one; they have half. Because Gabriel Jesus is half a player. With all due respect, he's a good player when he's fit, but if you're always unfit, you're half a player because availability is half of the job.
Forget the fitness. When a player has come out to tell you, "I am not a striker,"
okay.
Am I lying, Michael? What has he told us? What did he tell us?
Yeah, he said it doesn't feel like a striker. He thinks he's more of a winger.
A player is telling you, Kuro, I am not a striker. I am a natural winger. Why are you forcing him? Like, we do this conversion syndrome in Arsenal that is so annoying, where we know where a player can be at their best, but we tend to push them to do something that they might not be comfortable. I mean, it's part of soccer, but ultimately, I agree with you guys. In the old days, it was 4 strikers. Now it should be at least 3.
I like to think Arteta knows that with this new guy they just appointed from Atletico Madrid, you think they know this, but the squad is still under construction. It's still a young team so hopefully they know this, and this is just you don't want to buy the wrong person just to buy someone.
Michael, this is why they laugh at us. We always say we're under construction.
I understand, but you don't want to buy the wrong person. You don't want to buy the wrong person just to buy someone, right? Like you might get stuck with Lukaku or getting stuck with the Haaland.
There's someone the way someone analyzed it for me. Manchester United fan once pointed out was that after we bought Højlund, not forget this season. He said it at that time that we've signed one striker, but we still need another striker. And yes, we spent a lot of money signing this guy, but he now pointed out that Manchester United should be taking the kind of risk that Chelsea took. I mean, we know why Chelsea took that risk of going to sign Jackson. He mentioned a Jackson kind of player. And that when Newcastle signed Wilson from Bournemouth, that's a player Manchester United should have signed. But he was pointing out that what you do sometimes is you go and pluck this guy like Welbeck. Like people wrote Welbeck off, but you can see what he's doing with Brighton. That's a guy you can put in your squad. You can bring him he's not going to be on high wages. He's not expecting to play all the games. You bring in a guy around 29 who wants to be a beat part player. That's what that guy kind of analyzed it for me. You have your main striker, then you have the understudy. Because even if you have only that one striker and you're saying he's your star player, What happened to Bukayo Saka this season could have happened to him. He could get injured. What happened to Rodri could happen to him. He could get injured. And then you're not looking at running around the market looking for Sesko and this because so what I'm not trying to say is you get these guys, they're playing, they get into the rhythm. If your main guy gets injured, you have people to jump in. If he doesn't get injured, they know this is what you bought them for. This guy knows 90th minute or 85 minutes, we're looking for goal. We're playing two at the top. Old man, come on, jump in. Come on, baby. This is your job. So that's what I feel teams should do instead of just one player. Because I don't get it. It's putting all your eggs in one basket.
Okay, but I mean, it's Liverpool, right? Salah plays every game. We could say the same thing. Like when I said, everything has gone right for them. Also, some of it has to do with the players, genetics, and all that. But the same year, like Salah, Mane, and Firmino played every game that 1 year. They played every 3 days, and they were productive. So somehow, something managed to get away with it.
But apart from Salah, look at Liverpool. Is it not? I don't think it's a coincidence that they are the team with the most debt. Despite not spending, not buying players, they have the most debt. They have about 6 midfielders that can play across those 3 midfield positions. They have 4 strikers across the 3 positions, and they have youngsters that are supporting them. They have about 8 defenders. They have 2 left backs. They have 2 right backs. They have Gomez. They have what's his name, Trent. They have Konate. They have Kwanzaa. They have squad. Yeah, they have squad debt.
That's why.
And they were buying cheap.
That's why I laugh. They've had their own mini injury crisis this season too. The only difference is that it's not been to a key player, right?
Yeah. Hasn't been to Van Dijk. Hasn't been to Salah. Alisson was injured.
Exactly.
Kelleher was a decent replacement.
Yeah, Kelleher was.
But that's the point.
If
you have to have a decent replacement.
Yes, absolutely. I think depth. I think Arteta can rotate a bit more. Usually, Arteta tends to freeze if you're not really playing that much. You're really out of his plans. But it's all about trusting the players that you have, right? Actually, trusting the players are good enough and having quality depth. Don't want to rotate just for the sake of it. So it all comes down to recruitment. Like, yes, recruit more and better players and try and recruit smartly so you can have players to go around and not over rely on the same core of players. So I agree with you guys that rotation is a good thing, but you have to rotate them with the right players and not just rotate for the sake of rotating.
Yeah. I'm going to take this comment, then I'm going to say this to end this, and then we'll move on to the next one. We've got Ayo saying that he'll pick Cunha from Wolves. Yeah, fair enough. But I don't know if that guy's attitude is the right one.
Why did you sign a new contract? I hate when players do that. Like Caicedo did the same thing. You know you want to leave, then you still sign a new contract just to raise your price. You just
agreed because they get a percentage of a higher transfer deal, and if the deal doesn't come, they're making more money. There was this time Alex Ferguson Arsene Wenger was, they were both having the son, the prof, were having this public spat, and then they now said that Arsene Wenger speaks 4 languages. Says, "Oh, is that special?" That he has this kid from Mali in his academy that speaks 6 languages, and I don't know why I remember that now, but it kind of keys into one thing. Because I was going to say that you don't have to buy proven players. Go and pick one kid from the French league or the Belgian league or the German league for 15 million and bring him. If it doesn't work out, you sell him for, you probably make that money back. Basically, I think all the Premier League clubs should go and basically steal the whole transfer department of Brighton, because they seem to be experts at doing this. So let's move on and round up for the week. Does anybody have kudos and donkeys for this week? I think the donkey of this week is going to be unanimous, but does anybody have kudos for this week?
I do have kudos for the week, and my kudos goes to Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he's making a very bold and decisive move for his career. It's very easy to kind of stay in your comfort zone, somewhere you're comfortable. I don't think he's moved for insane wages. I think he's an amazing player, and I'm sure Liverpool fans are hurting, but for the sake of football, I just want to applaud him for being that courageous and taking this really bold move.
Correct. That's right. That's good. I'm happy for
Yeah.
him. I'm very happy. Liverpool are losing one of their good players. What about you? Well,
Yeah,
anyone?
I'm just happy that he's getting paid. I mean, um, and also the commercial appeal that would also come with a transfer. It's the next step in his progression as a player. So I don't think anyone can come out. And then we've always everyone. I think you'll be you find it's not a lot of people that you will find that would fault the move. It's something that has been out there, so it's not too surprising. So
Yeah.
totally understandable, and I wish him all the
Trent,
best.
Trent, Trent and Jude, two black boys, just kind of being the stars of Madrid. I guess with Mbappe and Vinicius and those guys, it's kind of exciting to think
Yeah,
about.
actually, it's actually a black team now. Shameni, Kavaminga.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a black team.
It is what it is.
Yeah, ironic for a country that so does monkey chants.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that ironic? And then the other side of it is, I mean, technically the best players in that league are black. I mean, Yamal is a black kid. Is the darker side of Arab. He's an African kid that's dark, really, really dark. Not an African kid. Ironic, isn't it? That they're still doing monkey chants in that country, and the face of their football is black.
Now them they rush us.
They too like us. They don't get choice. Oh, my kudos of the week goes to Nuno Espirito Santos. Not only is he maintaining what he's doing, he's defying all the expectations. I'm just hoping he can top it up and finish the season on the strong and get the Champions League qualification. I think they've ended. They've been the most consistent of the other teams, apart from Arsenal and Liverpool. Probably say that Nottingham Forest have been as consistent as Arsenal. And also because people don't actually know, but that guy is also African. A lot of people don't know that, but
You know?
Espirito Santos, yeah, he's African.
I mean, what? Oh, I didn't know that. I know he was Portuguese. I know he was on that Mourinho's Porto team that won the Champions
Yes,
League in
yes,
'04
yeah. He
as
was
a
born
goal.
in he was born in Cape Verde.
Okay,
Yeah, he's an
nice.
African. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but you know, I don't know if his parents were Portuguese and he's a Cape
Yeah.
Verdean native, but I know he was born in Cape
Yeah, Cape
Verde.
Verde is a Portuguese colony, so
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah,
of.
yeah. So I'm happy for him on that. My donkey of the week, I have two. So I'll name the first one. First donkey is the Nigerian Football League. Sorry, the Nigerian Football Federation (NFF), formerly known as the NFA, No Future
No future
Ambition.
ambition.
They continue to match their name. Continue to do as their name says. That continue to disappoint us. This is now going to be how many years of disappointment? One is always one step forward, two steps backward. Last Nations Cup, we thought after that Nations Cup that things were getting better again, and it didn't even take long for them to disappoint us. That coach did not last. They fired him, and then this. So I know it won't be the last time I call Nigeria a donkey on this show because they consistently disappoint us. Does anyone have another donkey?
I'd like to shout out the Chelsea team who lost 3-0 to their under 18s, under 21s, and apparently their coach had to cancel their day off because the first team lost so badly to their reserves in training. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah, I have two too. First is the Kenyan goalkeeper who was caught in a match fixing scandal. I think it's Patrick Matsai. They had him on cameras, recorded,
Wow.
saying he was going to let some goals go in. And there's like videos and everything of like him literally on
Wow.
different games, like, letting the ball, conceding goals last minute and at certain times or around the same setting time. So, yeah, that's my first donkey. My second donkey is um, to the US as a whole hosting, the World Cup, and placing, because there's going to be a little bit of a confusion if you ban countries that qualified for the World Cup and they're on the ban list and they're not able to make it in, and it's going to be a logistical nightmare. So that's the second donkey, but they'll figure it out. They'll be all right.
My second donkey goes to Harry Redknapp. What's it called? Harry Redknapp called Tuchel a German spy. Like
Oh yeah.
I had to wonder whether we're in 1939 again. I thought the war ended in 1945. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like,
Was he joking?
No, he was serious.
he was serious.
He
He's
was on
kind
some
of said the guy wouldn't do well. He thinks he's a German spy that he's come to
Well,
destroy his
Redknapp wanted the job back in. I think back when Hodgson got it, everyone thought Redknapp was going to get it. I think he probably never recovered from that disappointment. That'd be my
He's on some espionage type stuff. He's still in the Cold War era.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even have Cold War with Germany. Okay, well, they did. They had Cold War with East Germany. That's right. Up to because there was East Germany. I forgot that. Yeah, so but that was embarrassing too. I was like, are you serious? Like, I don't get xenophobia in sports. I don't get it.
Do you think that was what it was, or it was more of him saying? I think it was more personal, right? I think there's been a sentiment among British coaches overall that they feel like they're being sidelined
yeah.
from top paying gigs, and I think you should speak more to um, their flair and their technicality. I think a lot of them have gone the route of being players and then transitioning to become coaches. And it's not always a given that that's always going to be a great thing, that because you were a great player, you're going to transition to becoming a good coach. So I think there's just been an inherent beef when they see someone who's just a pure tactician that outmaneuvers them and does the job, greater than the expectation. I think Tuchel is a great coach for this team right now, just the way the team is set up and being able to bring out the best and harness these young talents, like especially because if we see they're slowly incorporating a young core because the team is really generally young, right? So you need a player of that, a coach of that caliber to sort of, not just mess around, play around, but really be. They needed that discipline, a really disciplined tactician. I think it will be beneficial for them in the long run. So whatever he says, he'll be all right.
Yeah, what you said about it being personal reminded me of Sam Allardyce. When Sam Allardyce said if his name was Sam Allardyce, he would be coach of Real Madrid.
Well, they should just pray for Eddie Howe to get better because that's all they have. It's not the league's fault if the Premier League is at the top of the pyramid. It's attracting the best coaches in the world. So that means English coaches have to compete with coaches from Germany, coaches from Spain, coaches from Italy. And the problem you now have is that if the top of your own tree is the same top of every other person's tree, then you're all trying to pluck the same fruit. Because what happens is that, like a Glasner now would tell you that he's overqualified for Crystal Palace because he's already won the Europa League and he's at Crystal Palace. But because Crystal Palace makes more money than Frankfurt, Wolfsburg, he's going to come here. So maybe English coaches should start learning that instead of trying to get to the top of the tree in England,
go to other countries.
Go to other countries and do well. Also,
that's what Graham Potter did. That's what Graham Potter did, right?
Yeah, that's what Graham Potter did. Yeah. So you go there, then you can then come and get jobs easy because from there it'll be easier to hire you. Because I understand why some of them might be mad. Oh, look, because this guy won the. He's doing well in Portugal, but we consider Portugal to be a second-rate league. Now he's in he's a Manchester United coach. Just that why haven't they tried an English guy? Blah blah blah. But there are no English guys doing well anywhere apart from Eddie Howe. So who are they supposed to hire?
I mean, they give it to a British guy. They gave it to Moyes, right? No, that went well.
Oh, I mean, I don't want to take you back that far. No, he's Scottish.
Yeah,
He's
it's a British, my
Yeah,
man. Like, it's
the
local.
British. Yeah, yeah, it's local, but they don't consider
They don't.
Scottish
I
to
know
be
England
English.
and Scotland are considered to like
They're not
next
considered.
to each
Yeah,
other. Like
they,
Newcastle and
they,
Glasgow are like maybe an hour apart, but let's not get into that.
yeah, because if you remember, apart before Eddie Howe won this trophy, they were going that the last Englishman to win a trophy was what, like 20, 30 years ago.
With
No
Harry
Englishman.
Redknapp, when Harry Redknapp won the Carabao Cup with Tottenham,
The FA Cup with Portsmouth.
with Portsmouth, yes, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
when he won
yeah,
the
it was
FA Cup.
different.
Yeah, yeah, like 2008.
2008, yeah.
Then the last time an Englishman won the league was, I don't know, Brian Clough.
But definitely not the Premier League. No Englishman has won.
No,
the
no
Premier
Englishman
League.
won the Premier League. I think it's Brian Clough. Like it's
Who was
been a long
Leeds? I think Howard Wilkinson in 1992 as Leeds coach.
Was how Wilkinson English? Then he would be the one. Yeah, I think he's the last person. Which 1990? Yeah, that's about 30 years ago. Because all Alex Ferguson's achievements, it's basically a Scottish guy, another foreigner did it. Yeah, so that's the thing with them. I have posted a correction that I think we should note and correct that Buchi Nuno is from Sao Tome, not Cape Verde. He's actually closer to Nigeria. Laugh out loud. So he's saying that. Yeah, he's from He was born in Sao Tome and Principe, not Cape Verde. So it's even closer to the West. He's West African. That's what
I heard that's a wonderful place to visit, by the way. Like,
yeah,
Nigeria is not always USA or Dubai. That's why we should like think of these other smaller African countries. They're wonderful places to visit.
Yeah. That actually makes sense. And I think I'm gonna go there sometime.
Airport is small though.
Huh?
The airport, the runway is kind of like tricky to navigate.
Maybe we land on a different country and go with boat.
Yeah.
Maybe go from Gambia to Sao Tome with boat. That will also be a good experience. All right, guys. We have been here for an hour and a half. It's been good to see you guys again. Nice to have you on the show for the first time, Michael. I mean, with me, because you've been here before. Nice to have you again, Wale. It's been a good experience. Like I said, it was a slow weekend. Nothing much happened, so we had to discuss a lot of things, but a lot of other things. But we made a good discussion out of it, and the week will be better. There's a full week of football coming up. Chelsea's playing Spurs. I think I'm praying for a draw. I don't want Chelsea to make that top four. I'm tired of their fans. Like, come on, like I'm tired. Misery loves company, so I want Chelsea, Spurs. I like the way Chelsea and Spurs are suffering while Manchester United is suffering. You know, when we start doing well, they can start doing well. You know what I mean? So that there's more people to share the banter with. Now, if you're the only Manchester United, if it's only Manchester United that's suffering, then you're the target for banter. Everyone just picking on you. You know, so it's the same reason why. Arsenal fans wanted Man City to keep winning the league, because if Liverpool wins it now, then there's like, what's your excuse? You know what I'm saying? So let Chelsea not make top four so that their fans can shut up. And well, apart from that, guys, I hope every other person has a good week. Apart from the people I don't want to win.
So have a good week.
Yeah, I don't. I'm talking football wise.
Not the white football.
But apart from football, that's why I say apart from that, everybody should have a good week. Apart from, I can't mention his name, because now if you mention that guy's name, now I heard that the State Department is watching all of us now. You know who? I hope he doesn't have a good week, please. God, man, the price of everything is about to go up. God. It's sad. It's sad. Yeah, guys. It was my pleasure. Have a good one.
Have a good one, everyone.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You're watching Footy Fantasy. It is your steady thing will reach your football needs. Banter from rivalries, sure you go receive. From EPL to Champions League, your eyes go see. It's Footy Fantasy. You're watching Footy Footy fantasy. It is sure say the thing go meet your football knee. Banter from rival.